do you know what the GDP of the world is?
The GDP of the world as such, what we can say at this point is that the GDP of the world, which we call actually gross universe product.
Okay, instead of gross domestic product?
Yes. Gross user product. It grew by 60% from 1st of January until July 2007. We are looking at the numbers for the second half, and all indications are that it grew by another 50 to 70% in the second half of 2007. So it's doubled in size last year.
So when they first looked at economics in MMOs, they were saying there was a lot of this hoarding, which would lead to inflation. Do you see a lot of inflation?
No, there's actually been deflation in ETH, and deflation due to gameplay that was introduced into the game in early 2007. We had kind of a monopoly on certain production methods of producing certain items, so-called Cat 2 items. And the monopoly led to very high prices and very few people that controlled these.
Especially since there's no differentiation.
Yes, exactly. So what we did was we created a gameplay where a gamer could develop a Cat 1 blueprint into a Cat 2 blueprint through adding certain components into that process and adding time, etc. So they put some effort into the production process, into the research process as such, so they were able to invent a Cat 2 blueprint. And so a lot of people saw a profit opportunity there, went into the work of creating themselves a Cat 2 blueprints and producing these items, leading to a huge drop in prices of these items.
Right.
And this was a positive...
Because of the entry
yes.
into the market.
Yeah. And this was a very positive thing for ETH because it increased the production at the same time as prices decreased. So it was not a deflation in a negative way, which deflation usually is a negative one in the real.
Do you ever feel, since you have a closed economy, do you ever feel like an urge to test out some economic theories?
That's the whole reason I'm there.
I mean, besides, because most of economic research, you have to look into the past and try to look at historical trends. But here you have basically a artificial universe, which economy.
Yes. And that is why it's a very exciting environment for economists to work in. We do not do any tests as such on the players while playing, but we have all the information up to date, and we can test to see whether they react to certain changes according to economic theory.
Supply changes
yes.
or demand.
Yeah, and I would like to take one example on the lecture tomorrow, which is from the cycling market last year, where we saw price changes happening to the market due to changes in the gameplay. And then we decided, well, that was not good, we need to change some of it back. So we put that up on our test server. And the players, we did not announce it, we just had it on the test server. The players have access to those test servers, and they went in there and they looked around saying, they might be changing something there. So they went to
players are smart.
Oh, the players are very, very smart.
Don't underestimate the players.
Never underestimate the players, and I think we have some of the smartest players in the MMO community. Just from the comments that they're making, from the production planning that they're making, it is quite obvious that these are people that are putting a lot of effort into what they're doing. And the example of the cycling was very interesting because within a couple of days the price jumped, even though there was none.
It's an anticipation of
exactly.
change.
Yeah, that is usually the sign for a very efficient market.
What kind of statistics are you following in terms of research?
Well, we can just categorize that into, I guess, three broad categories. It is statistics on the demographics, in terms of what are people doing, what ships are they flying, where are they in the universe, etc. What are they interested in? Then it is information on, we can say, price levels, statistics on
just the price of commodities.
Yes, etc. And then finally we are gathering information that we can use for further research. So information that we not necessarily publish, but information that we use for further research or further game development.
And you see that the designers are looking at this data?
Yeah, we look over the data with the designers, definitely. Yes.
So if a game developer were to approach, thinking about making perhaps a small MMOG, maybe not massively multiplayer, but multiplayer, how would they tackle this sense of the economy?
Well,
what are the first things they have to think about?
It's really just the basic concept from any Economics 101 class. It's not enough to know Economics 101 and say, but now I can run an MMO economy. But if you have these basic concepts, at least you know to ask the right questions. Number 1 and 2, you have to have scarcity. I mean, if everything is available for everyone, it simply isn't fun.
Well, I think the main question that a lot of people do, and they try to assign prices to different vendors.
Yeah, but
they say this sword is 5 pieces, and I think because it'd probably be scarce.
I would say that's a fundamental mistake.
That's more communist.
Yeah, for some reason people want really to control this, and what you really have to think about is that you're dealing with people. It is a virtual reality with real people. And people, they value things based on their own preferences. They value it only on what they think, not on what you should need a lot of information, and actually you need information before action is made. A virtual one cannot give you that information, even though it can give you a lot of information. So what I would say is that just think about it in the terms that the player will in the end decide what it is worth. Just make sure that you have a market structure that allows people to do the trade when they need to, in an efficient manner. Okay,
but what if they don't have a player-created economy? They have just an NPC selling merchandise. I mean, obviously a price has to be attached to the commodities they're being sold.
Yes, but then you should just think about that as a starting price.
Okay, and then it's slowly adjusted based on the purchasing patterns.
Yes. And it will allow the players also to trade, not that it's strictly NPCs. Then you will pretty soon see if the players are trading it in a different way than the NPCs are providing it. And then you make a decision, well, do I want to then withdraw the NPC orders and let the players themselves deal with it? Or do I think that I need to change the NPC price in order to be like the market is doing? And generally speaking, if you have an MMO that is getting complex with several hundreds, if not thousands of items, you are better off allowing the market to work on itself. Otherwise, you need a lot of resources just monitoring them.
Just to assign all the prices to all of these. What do you think is the? Do you think more and more people will have like staff economists?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think that's absolutely true. We were at here at the conference yesterday, the people at Gaia said they both have an economic council and also in-staff economists to follow their market, and that's very important for them because they have certain parts of it open up to real trade.
Yeah, I think people can make money.
Yeah, so and then it becomes very, very important for them to make sure